I'm going to show you what the aseptic technique is. And once you learn the aseptic technique, this technique can be used anywhere else, like in a confined environment such as the laminar flow hood or the biosafety cabinet and so forth. So once you learn this, you can use it anywhere else, but it applies. Now, the aseptic technique simply is a technique that prevents contamination. Okay? Now, I'm going to demonstrate everything that we do that's involved in this technique. First thing you need is a clean lab bench area. And so clean everything off except the very thing that you need to do your work. And so the first thing you need to do is start the flame, the Bunsen burner, and be very careful with this. And so here's our Bunsen burner, and adjust the flame so that it's not too high, not too low, but just right, like so. All right, that's just right. Now, what I want to demonstrate is this, that I'm going to use a pasture pipette to transfer certain volumes from this green solution to a 50 ml and to a screw cap 15 ml tube. Okay? So the first thing I do is I take this canister and work out one pasture pipette, a serological pipette, and take it like that. And again, even though it's been autoclaved, the assumption is this, that nothing is sterile until you've sterilized it. So you take this and draw it through the flame once, turn it over, draw it through the flame second time, and then you let it cool off. All right? Now, everything that needs to be open must be flamed around the opening. So you take a bottle in two hands and you flame it by turning it like so, just briefly, and then let it cool. You take the tube, again, two or one hand, and you kind of flame it very briefly, let it cool, and then you take the other tube and flame it just like that, briefly, and you let it cool off. Okay? Now, you go back, and now you loosen the cap for the bottle, and you flip the cap for the 50 ml, and you unscrew the cap for the 15 ml. Now notice, I have loosened the cap and unscrewed the caps, but I left it on like that. And so you take your electric pipetter and our serological pipette that has been cooled off, and then you put it on here, and I'm going to transfer 10 mils to the 50 ml tube. So you draw it up, and then you put it in the 50 ml tube, like so. All right? Now, I'm going to transfer 5 mils to the 15 ml tube. And you do that. Again, measure 5 mils, and then you transfer it to the 5 ml tube. Just like that. You take this off, and you put it in the dirty serological pipette containers. And then you close this off right here. Okay? And that's how you aseptically transfer solution from one container to another. They must be flamed first, and then everything that you use for transferring must be sterilized as well. Now, the next thing I'm going to demonstrate for you, I'll move these out of the way, I'm going to demonstrate how we pour plates. And these are auger plates. Now, this is not an auger, but I'm going to illustrate how an auger plate is usually poured. Assume that this is the auger, it's been autoclaved, and then incubated at 57 degrees for at least half an hour to cool it down. Now, below 57 degrees, the auger will freeze, will harden up. So leave it at 57 degrees for about half an hour, and if you can touch the bottle with two hands with gloves on, you're ready to go. And so again, flame it around the mouth, just like that, briefly, and let it cool briefly, like that, and open it. like so. Now, before you start pouring, you flame the mouth that you're going to be pouring through, okay? And the way you pour agar plate is, the golden rule is, pour enough liquid until it covers about half of that petri dish. So I'm going to pour it like that, and then you work it around like that, okay? So pour enough to cover half, like that, and then you just kind of rock it back and forth to cover the rest of it, okay? Before you put the lid on, you cover this, you flame it briefly, and you do that. Now, there's a trick. People say, how come some people pour and they don't have any bubbles in their agar? Because if you're counting the number of colonies, you do not want any bubbles, because they will obstruct your view of the number of colonies. So usually the trick to it, you try not to make bubbles in here when you're mixing it. If you need ampicillin, you're going to add ampicillin and then kind of rock it a little bit, not bubbling it like that, okay? But if you do have bubbles in here, there's a trick to removing those bubbles. And I'm going to show you how your agar plates can look perfect all the time. And that is, you take this Bunsen burner like this, and don't try this at home, okay? Make sure the flame is very, 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 very low, like that. This is perfect, okay? You open up the agar with the bubbles, and you just kind of flame it, like so. Flame it. That's called burning the bubbles off the agar. And now you have smooth, perfectly poured agars, even if they weren't like that when you started pouring them. Okay? So that is the aseptic technique. Thank you.